Hello, Gut Check Project fans and KBMD Health family. I hope you're having a great day. I'm Eric here with my awesome co-host, Dr. Kenneth Brown. And again, for our 50th show, we've got a guest we've known for a long time.
Well, so this is awesome. We've waited for this,
yes.
And it so happens that it coincided perfectly. That one of our favorite people, one of the people that is so knowledgeable about something that we are passionate about, happens to have a brand new book, and she waited to release it till our 50th episode.
That was very nice of her. What's up, Shivan?
Hey, anything for you guys. Thanks for having me. And I'm very thrilled and honored. 50th episode and my new book that I've been working on for what feels like 50 years.
Heck yeah. Well, I mean, and you're so much bigger than just that book. I mean, you started SIBO SOS. I mean, you're literally the founder. You've been working with Dr. Allison Siebecker for quite some time. I'm going to forget something in here. Oh, and she has a cat named Belle.
She has a cat named Belle. I would venture to say that, Shivan, because of your passion, because now that I understand your reasoning why you're passionate about it, because the book is phenomenal. I loved it.
Yeah.
It's a really easy read. It's really awesome. I'm going to recommend it to all of my patients because not only did you really expose yourself on a very personal level so that you can show how all my patients are not alone. I mean, this is like what you actually explained in the beginning is exactly what my patients say. But then you got into the science and you interviewed so many of the world thought leaders on this. And then ultimately you ended it with, look, I'm not just going to tell you about this. I'm going to tell you how to eat. And the last half of the book is a really cool recipe book about how to do it in the one thing, which is you're doing something unique. It's how to heal your SIBO in 21 days. And I'm covering your name there, Shivan Sarna. Beautiful Shivan Sarna, one of our favorite people. And I'm going to say that you are the voice of SIBO. There's lots of scientists out there, Allison Siebecker, Mark Pimentel, Ruscio, all these people that you've interviewed, all awesome. We know them well. We love them. They're great people. But you have a very unique history in that you have the ability to write, produce, and do these different things. So we need people like you to be the voice of this. Definitely. And that's what you really are becoming with this book. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you so much. It's been a dream of mine. My best friend just told me while I was going through all of these treatments and discoveries, you really need to write a book. And I would bring my notebooks into the doctor's offices and appointments, and they'd look at me and go, you really need to write a book. And I'd be like, I know. And I writing a book is not easy. This little baby looks like, one and done. Oh my gosh, it was very laborious. But I am a TV person. So I did the SIBO SOS Summit 1, the SIBO SOS Summit 2, the IBS and SIBO SOS Summit, the Microbiome Rescue Summit. And now, my mother had lymphoma back in the 90s and no one knew anything about anything, it felt like. And I'm just working on the Lymphatic Rescue Summit. So I really took everything from those digestive summits and put it into this book. And I have interviewed hundreds of people about the topic, including you. And I wanted to give everybody a book that was inexpensive because $20 for all this is crazy good. And sometimes Amazon's already put it on sale for $18, which is also crazy. Probably won't stay that way for long, but I'm thrilled. And I wanted to get everybody a book that I wish I had because I was just doing Dr. Google and, staring at the incredible website, SIBOinfo.com, which is Dr. Siebecker's website. But I needed everybody to know that they weren't alone. And if I could share a couple of stories and some recipes and how to get through the day more easily, plus the science, then as I was talking to God and the universe and the angels begging for help, I was like, look, if I have insurance, I have a brain, I have a great computer, I have a little bit of time on my hands, because for the first time, my husband was studying to become a CPA, and so I actually had some free time while he was studying. And I was like, look, if I'm having a hard time figuring this out, I know other people have to be. Sure. So I told the universe I was going to help them as I got helped, and here it is.
You know, I think all of that is awesome. And I don't want to steal any thunder from Ken as he goes over the various aspects. Is he's going to, I'm sure, pull some quotes and stuff from the book. But the thing that I liked is that, and Siebecker says it from the forward, is it's written so that anybody who is new to this game can pick up this book and feel like they're learning what's happening to me, what's kind of the science behind it, and let's give you some how you can begin to work your way out. It's an awesome manual, and honestly, it's a tribute back to when we very, very first teamed up with one of those SIBO summits that you did, and it's been great for us. And that connection for Autron Teal to the SIBO community was a launching point for our product as well.
Well, what I love about this is that I can hand this book to people that have come up to me. Because when we do the SIBO, when I've done the SIBO summits with you, you have such knowledgeable people that join this, and the questions are in depth and they're there. And that's not what I'm seeing in clinic. What I'm seeing is your forward when you said my story. Yeah. And that's what I see. I see the people that come in and they go, I went to this doctor, to that doctor. So I do want to open with a quote, because this is basically how your book opens. And if anybody relates to this, I need you to go buy Healing SIBO by Shivan Sarna, like right now, because this will grab you. And this is your writing style. This is beautiful. This is what makes it really cool. You make it personal and you make it sciencey. But here it is. I was in the bathroom sweating. When I finally got out of there, the waiter looked worried, and my poor boss, a polite man in his 40s, asked me if I was all right. I mumbled body functions and shrugged my shoulders. I thought that was the funniest opening line. You basically described yourself in the toilet, opening line. That's awesome. That's so vulnerable and so cool.
You know, I'll never forget that moment. And I'm in touch through Facebook with that boss who's, no longer my boss, but, and I can't wait for him to read that. I don't even know. I was like, dude, you're in my book. He's like, what? I'm like, trust me, just get the book.
You're the polite man in your 40s.
Well, it turns out he wasn't in his 40s. He was in his 30s, but I didn't realize that. Sorry.
That's awesome.
That's even better.
That's so
Hey, I don't know if you know this or not. I don't know if you have an audio version of your book out, but actually Ken was just only doing that because he wants to be. I
did not know. Yeah. So I was sort of auditioning to be the audio version. Do you happen to have an audio version yet for your book?
I actually do. I didn't realize you were in the market. But I do. She is an amazing actor, and
I knew she'd choose
award-winning, and she's actually done the audiobooks for some of the most famous and influential people on the planet. And I didn't realize that when they were like, hey, what about this person's voice? I was like, oh, it sounds amazing.
I'm just going to go back to being
a song. Yeah, right. Anyway.
I'll just be a country butt doctor and do my thing. I won't try to be an audio book person anymore. But that's awesome. So you already have an audio version of this. That's incredible.
And Kindle. Yep. It's really, I could actually, when they told me they were going to do an audiobook, because I am so new to the book game, I was like, really? And they were like, yeah, of course. I'm like, okay, great. I mean, it was really exciting. This has been an exciting process for me. It's something I've always dreamed of, writing that book, and then I never thought I'd be writing it about this. But I'm very proud of it, and the fact that you like that line makes me feel really safe and good, because I was, you're nervous. This is not like this is like really vulnerable stuff.
Well, I think it's the reason why I really like it, honestly, Shivan, is it's number one, it's great reading because it hooks you immediately. But that is actually the conversations that I have with my patients. And it's a very real thing. And people hold that in until they find a doctor that they can communicate with. And I hear that and I just say, hey, you're not alone. And now I can sit there and say, not only you're not alone, but it's actually people have written books that have experienced similar things. I talk to patients that turn down jobs because the commute is too long. I talk to people that, you know, they won't eat for 2 days because they have to go on a trip, and so on and so on. And you've been there, and you basically described that. I think that what you have done, and I mentioned this in the beginning, that you have become the voice of SIBO, you know, teaming up with people like Dr. Siebecker, who we all respect a ton, and you've done these summits and these Facebook Lives. What you have done is that you have made SIBO front and center. And I'm going to challenge you that I think that this is just the beginning, because so few people really know what this is, but you may have to continue to do this to keep it front and center so that people are reminded.
Like, in a way, we've had over 2 million views of the summits, which is just like scratching the surface. So thank you for that challenge. Challenge accepted. I'm not giving up. I am doing a lymphatic summit, and I'm doing a biological dental summit, because I think those are two things that are not talked enough about. But my heart is always going to be here with SIBO, because I have a big heart. I can talk about other things too, but the SIBO is so, look, from the age of 5, I've had it. So yeah, I just figured it out. That's been a whole lifetime of obnoxious feelings. So I absolutely am going to continue. I just did 6 radio shows yesterday, NPR in Utah, Kentucky, Hudson Valley, New York. It was so cool. And I'm not stopping. I'm not going to be like, oh, the book launch, now it's all over. I'm just not going to, you know, if it does it, it does it. No, this is going to be like book launch every single day. I am totally thrilled to have it all here. And also, like, those summits ranged anywhere from $59 to $200. This is $20, people. Go in here.
And like I said earlier, it's just so easy to read. And I think that sometimes people get a little turned off when they only read things that are written medically and didactically. Like, it's about someone. It's not from someone who's had that journey. And your book is definitely from someone who's had that journey. I mean, do you want to learn the pathway to, you know, to happiness from someone who's done it, or someone who's read about it and said, I think it's that way? Well, yours is definitely one of someone who has suffered, like many do, and who's had their schedules compromised, your plans thwarted, et cetera, simply because of SIBO. And you walk us through exactly why you think that you ended up there and what someone can do about it. And that's really what people want to know when they come to the clinic.
Absolutely. And what I love about your book is that you have certain aspects, which are the little gray boxes that pop up, which are just kind of pearls. And more importantly, you say how to use my book. You're like, this is how to use the book. So you have this way of saying, this is my story. If you want to get into it, that's fine. This is what I recommend. This is what the experts recommend. This is the science part of it. So it's almost a guide that people can go back and forth to. So I want to read it once, get the story, and then I'm going to go back and use the book as a guide to help me get through this.
I really appreciate that observation, because that is exactly what I was intending it to be. And on page 111, there is that protocol or the algorithm. Yeah. Right, that Dr. Pimentel created, then Dr. Sandberg-Lewis added to, and Dr. Siebecker added to. I even added to it. And we call it the SIBO Recovery Roadmap, which is also the name of the course Dr. Siebecker and I created. And it takes you through everything: where to test, when to treat, what if that didn't work, go back to, it's like a game, right? Not really, but this is the guide. So that is, the whole book is based on that. The whole course, SIBO Recovery Roadmap, is based on that as well. And 21 days, people, it's going to take longer than 21 days. Okay, I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Well,
you can get a really good start, and you can make a plan in that 21 days.
So this is not a spoiler alert, but it is kind of a spoiler. All right, so it is a spoiler alert. If you're going to read the book, just press mute here, because the book, I mean, it grabs you right away, and then it really, really peaks and just nails you on page 46.
That's probably my favorite page.
It's by far my favorite page. Yeah. On 46.
The very bottom of 46.
The book completely peaks at 46 and does a good job of maintaining from then on. But really at 46 is really when it nails.
We have a pre-Super Bowl party just to sit around and read page 46.
We're gonna read page 46. That's when she mentions my name. So
yeah, I was really excited about that.
Here you go. Ode to page 46 and about Atrantil. Eric, I'm so sorry. I don't think I mentioned your name. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I really want people to come over to the house before the game and talk about Ken.
That was not really a spoiler alert. That was just thank you for mentioning me in your book. That was very, very kind of you. That was very sweet. And actually, that's there's many other highlights in the book besides page 46. But go to page 46. It's really cool.
It's very short. I should have made it longer and bigger, but there it is. Yeah, I think you're also on page 220 as well.
Oh, I missed that one.
219. Oh, gosh, I hope so. I hope you're in there. Yep, Dr. Ken Brown.
There we go.
I list all the doctors. So what can I say?
All right. So one thing that I would like to do, because you're the voice of SIBO, as far as my world, all my patients know you. Oh my gosh. I had a patient today that I a telemedicine visit, and I said, yeah, this is really exciting. We're going to be interviewing Shivan Sarna. And she goes, oh, I was on her summit and she told me to make an appointment with you, and she lives in Texas, so she could do a telemedicine. So because of you, she made an appointment with me, and she got so excited, like I was like this celebrity whisperer. She's like, Shivan? I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm going to watch this. It's going to be really neat. So what I really liked was the beginning, because honestly, you and I have worked together for a few years now, and it's always been in the medical aspect. I loved your story. Would you mind just telling who Shivan Sarna is and why you ended up here?
Okay, so there are many aspects to Shivan Sarna. However, one of them, the multifaceted jewel that she is, well, basically, my dad's from India. My mom is Irish and Welsh from upstate New York. And they met in the 50s in a New York Times ad. And this is relevant to not just like my life story, because my father ran this incredible business called the Bells of Sarna. And if you're of a certain age, you know what they are. They're the brass bells that the hippies loved. And I have an incense named after me. And flashes.
No way.
Yes, way, man. I've already arrived, the incense, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever else I do after that is like, wah, wah. Anyway, so my mom was from upstate New York. She went to work. She was in the big city. She had a merchandising background. He wanted her to run his showroom back then, and she would not work for him because he was not going to pay her enough, which I love and is a family legend. However, he did court her, and they did get married. And he was 30 years her senior and of another culture, and was older than her mother and father. So it's very interesting.
Ooh.
Yeah. He was born in the 1800s. Okay. So I was born when he was 69 years old.
Oh my.
30-year age difference. Anyway, so we would go on buying trips to India, they would, and I would obviously, as a little kid, get schlepped along, and I would go, and so I've been to India a bunch of times as a child, and I got sick. I got really, really sick. And as you can imagine, with my little baby microbiome, and drinking water buffalo milk, and just who knows. So anyway, I got really sick, got better.
I just want to stop there for a second. Eric said, sure, like, of course, water buffalo milk. Why not?
Yeah. Is that not something that you...
Sorry.
Yeah.
I stopped. I was like, wow. And Eric goes, sure.
Yeah.
Like, of course.
Well,
in Decatur, we do water buffalo all the time.
Oh, no. We do dry buffalo there?
Okay. Crazy. Go on. Sorry.
Fine. Anyway, then I came back, right, a little kid. We lived in Manhattan. We went on field trips, right, from this fancy Dalton school I went to, which is like super chic school. Anyway, we would milk the cows like little city kids at this farm in upstate New York, and they had us drink. They had us drink some of the milk, just like a sip, no big deal. But man, I got so sick.
Really?
And, oh my gosh, I was so sick. And then, things weren't the same. They just were not the same. And I remember my mom had a poster with a quote on it in the bathroom, as a decorative thing. And it was the first thing as a person that I'd ever memorized because I was in the bathroom so much. And then bottom line is my father being Indian asked my mom, like, is Shivan going enough? Because like their Ayurvedic perspective, you got to be going to be healthy. And mom was like all of a sudden really worried. And that was the first time I experienced shame around the bathroom because like they were just a little bit too invasive. And at 5 years old, I'm like, mind your own beeswax, okay? Get out of my biz. But that was the first memory I have of that. And then it has just been like, not great the rest of my life. And I'm a skinny person. And in college, we would call my stomach Buddha belly, all regards and respect to Buddha. But it was just like a thing, like skinny person, bloated belly. And I used to also see those posters of Sally Struthers. Do you remember her? And she would like save the child. And they have these little kids with these big distended bellies.
Right.
Like, people would be like, I want to look like that. Like, yikes, what the heck? Am I okay? Anyway, not as severe, of course, but I fast forward, moved into a sorority house at the University of Florida and realized that my patterns were definitely different than everybody else. But I was doing okay, got into life, got, career, big career on TV, 20 years at HSN, Home Shopping Network, for those of you who are not my demographic. And, and you two are not my demographic. And, I was starting to get really, really sick towards, the past like seven years or so. And I was like, the slimwear was not working to hold the belly in, the bloat in. And I was really getting concerned. Like I started to think maybe I had cancer. I just didn't know. And I insisted, thank goodness he listened to me in a way. My gastroenterologist, I like begged for what are they called? Endoscopy. No, the other one. Endoscopy, colonoscopy.
Colonoscopy?
Yeah, this is me doing a demo of a colonoscopy. There you go.
I thought that I begged for him to play a violin for me because
I wanted him to conduct the band.
Colonoscopy. So anyway, so I begged him to do this because I thought I was dying. I thought he's going to go in there and he's going to see something. And it was like the day before Christmas Eve, or it was like right before Christmas. I got the last appointment beforehand. And I thought, oh, well, this is the year I find out that I'm dying. Yeah. That something's clearly wrong with me. And, after the colonoscopy and you're like all drunk from the propofol, he's like, I saw nothing. It's fine. I'll see in like 5 years, Shivan. I'm like, what? How is that possible? And why is it that I'm upset that I don't have a diagnosis right now? That is messed up. Messed up. You should be thrilled. You don't have cancer. That's awesome. So, I just kept trying to find the right doctors, and the several I went to were like, here's an antidepressant, you poor thing, wink, wink, bless your heart, run 3 miles. Like, I could barely get out of bed, much less run 3 miles.
I love that you refer to that guy as the run 3 miles doctor for several chapters.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, I really don't even remember his name. I just remember that. He's retired now, which I think is best. So, but I did finally, I was talking to a girlfriend at work, and she and I had this passing conversation because we were the weirdos who were gluten-free. And, now it's much more prevalent, but we really got flack for being gluten-free, just to show you how backwards the situation was. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm on this really intense antibiotic right now for my gut. I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, I breathe into these test tubes and then I'm on this serious antibiotic. And immediately you hear serious antibiotic and your brain shuts down. You're like, oh, I'm not going to do that. But I couldn't get it out of my head. I called her. I was like, what were you talking about? She told me to the best of her ability, and I asked the doctor for a breath test. I had the breath test for SIBO. They interpreted it wrong. It literally said negative, and I could see the handwriting scratched. No, it said positive, and it was scratched out. And new handwriting was there that said negative, which is totally wrong. It was positive. But I lost 18 months, right? And when you're in this quest mode of trying to find out what's wrong with you, knowing what you're not dealing with is just as important as knowing what you are dealing with. So I was misinformed for those 18 months. Anyway, I finally got the right person and did another breath test, and it was so freaking positive. It was, irrefutable, and started treatment, and was never told that you might have to do multiple rounds. So here I am taking my rifaximin, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get better. Woo! And after the 2 weeks or 10 days, I was not better. I was not better.
Right.
I was confused. And I'm like, hey, it didn't work. I've never had an antibiotic not work. And then I was like, wait a minute, misinformation. I'm not getting the whole story. I'm going to have to do some research here. And that's really there was a lot of research beforehand, but when that first round of antibiotics didn't work, I realized something's wrong here. I'm going to have to become my own advocate. So I started printing out the studies. I would walk into the appointments with them. I'd be like, look, here's the treatment right here. You need to give me another round, and I need some neomycin as well, dear. And my doctor was amazing, was very open, and now he's basically a SIBO expert. And he has a mixed emotion about all the patients that go to him from my story. He's dealing with a lot of really difficult cases now. But that's it. I took the IBS SMART test. I found out that I definitely had post-infectious IBS, which was a relief because I do my prokinetic religiously. And even though I have the underlying cause of post-infectious IBS, meaning that from food poisoning I have SIBO, the fact that I am dealing with it and treating it with my Motegrity prokinetic, I feel 1,000% better. And that's part of the message that is really important is you might not be cured on paper. It's a different mindset. But if you're managing your condition, you can feel 100% better than a condition untreated. And you as medical professionals know that. But I just want other patients to hear that.
Man, that's awesome. Honestly, because when you tell that story, it's very unique to you because that you're the one experiencing it. However, the patients who come through with long-term SIBO, when I hear the stops and I didn't know, and I just wanted to find out, even if I found out what it wasn't, it's almost like everyone who starts off with SIBO or severe IBS, there are just a long line of hurdles that for years you just simply had to jump over or push down to finally get to some kind of answer. And that's who ends up at our clinic.
100%. And that's why I wanted you to tell your story, because I felt that your intro of the book was, although the names are a little slightly different, the time frame slightly different, but every one of my patients has such a similar story. I'm usually the third or fourth doctor that they come to see, and they have that response, which is that they feel that they are being dismissed, they're being placated. It's, and they're moving on. And the interesting thing is that much like you, an intelligent, strong person that, is successful, they know that something's wrong. And they're like, look, I get that you're a doctor, but I'm telling you, it's like when a mother knows that something's wrong with her child. You don't argue. You just go, okay, I'm missing something.
Right.
And that's how I feel about that. So when somebody comes up and says, and I challenge you and everyone in this book that's involved with this, because this is going to be a moving target, that we all have to continue to evolve and move through this, because you covered so many important things in this book. So that's your story. And then you get into, I just want to go over the book a little bit, because if somebody's listening to this and they're like, well, I was told I have irritable bowel syndrome. I mean, how do I know that I have this? Well, the first chapter you have is really, really basic. What is SIBO, period? And you just cut to the chase, which I love, because I'm very myopic. By the time I see people, they've already done their homework. They've already been to your summit. They've already heard this. But you took a step back and you're like, look, what is SIBO? I'm going to tell you the basics here. So we're going to cover the basics, and then not to get too far ahead in the book, but then you went through and you covered things like some pretty intense stuff, relapsing, remitting SIBO, POTS, stuff like that. So what I really love is that you tell your story, and then you said, okay, this is my journey. This is what I learned. I'm just going to lay it out there. And then these are what the experts say. In the gray boxes, you said, I interview this person. This is what they suggest.
Yeah, I'm very clear that I'm not a medical professional. I mean, I'm medically oriented in my brain, and I'm a yoga teacher, so I know some about the body, but I wanted to write it for people who had never really taken the time to think about their intestines before.
Sure.
And on one of the NPR interviews, the person asked me, like, why is it that we don't pay more attention? Like, we feel unwell, maybe we have a round of diarrhea, we take our Maalox or whatever, and then we don't do anything until it happens again, and then we just get on this whole vicious cycle. And I've really thought about this a lot. If my intestines were on the outside of my body, they would be so pretty. All right. I would be like, have the prettiest, I'd be so proud of them. Everybody would be like showing theirs off, and they'd put hats on them in different colors and tattoos and who knows what else. They'd be decorative. So the fact that they're on the inside of the body, much like your teeth, right? You see these teeth, what's going on back there? What's going on with your tonsils? I don't think people think about that because we're not staring at them the way we are on the outside of our body. So I wanted to really write this for people who hadn't thought about it. And there's a section on learning how to poop. Yes, there is a better way to do it. A tip for bean lovers.
Shivan, can I just stop you for a quick second? When you're talking about if my intestines were on the outside, as a gastroenterologist, and I know that you'll agree with this, here's the deal. Our outward presentation, our outward brain health, our outward everything is a reflection of our gut health. So if you're somebody that's battling rosacea, if you're somebody that's battling acne, if you're somebody that has brain fog or these different things, you covered in your book. So although you say if my guts were on the outside, really we do manifest our guts on the outside in the way that we interact with the world. So
brilliant. That's
kind of already is there.
True. It is there, but we have to make the connection. We have to make the connection. And, I'm sitting here talking to you and I don't have brain fog right now, but at one point my brain fog was so bad and scared my husband so much because I could not speak. It wasn't for a long period of time. It was just a couple of times where I literally couldn't talk, and it scared the crap out of him and it scared me. And then I was, for a small period of time, also memorable stuttering because it just couldn't come out. And I speak for a living, so that really scared us. But it's real, you guys. It's real. You're not crazy. You are absolutely have every right to good medical, assistance. Just a message to other patients, you may have to drive the bus for a while. And
I love the fact that you just used the word that you're not crazy, because so many times we see people who've either been told that that's what they are, or that they are overly anxious, or that they are severely depressed. And that happens to be the root that someone goes to. And truthfully, they may be experiencing anxiety or depression, but just as both of y'all just said, it's really just a manifestation of there's an oven down there, and it's creating inflammation everywhere, and it's affecting the brain. And it's unfortunate because we need to begin to heal by taking care of the gut.
So on our previous podcast, we interviewed a soon-to-be PhD who her specialty is in looking at gut inflammation affecting the brain. And what we can show is, and you actually talk about it in your book with the lipopolysaccharides and things like that, brain fog is actually a result of TNF alpha, different inflammatory mediators that cross the blood-brain barrier. So when people go and they beat themselves up and they say, oh my gosh, why can't I do this? Sometimes it's out of your control. And sometimes it's because you have an inflammatory process starting in your gut, crossing your brain. So when you say somebody that is a TV personality that struggled to find her words, that's your livelihood. That's not a fake thing. That was real. That's scary.
Yeah.
That was very scary. I happened to have been doing it on my day off. So it wasn't like I had to go into work that afternoon, and I have good history of being able to sleep it off. Like if I don't feel well, I take a nap, I'm often better, because that's just like my body does a lot of work when I sleep. But look, if you're in a banking situation or you're a nuclear chemist or something, you have important things to be thinking about, and you've got to have clarity. Not to mention, it's so hard to show up, right? It's so hard to show up for your loved ones and for yourself. And, the thought of running 3 miles or even like doing some fitness for myself at that time was practically impossible, because I was just like surviving. Now, it did have something else going on at the same time, which I didn't realize until later, and that is that the television studio was infested with mold.
Oh.
And yeah, so that is my opinion. That has not been proven. That is my opinion. However, I definitely have mold poisoning. I definitely have that. And so that made everything worse. And I think I ended up getting a lot worse with my SIBO and having those extra brain issues, temporarily as they may have been, when the mold really started to, the bucket was overflowing with that.
Well,
So,
in your book, you also described the hours you were working, the stress you were under. I mean, it was the perfect storm. You set yourself up for your immune system and everything comes down to inflammation. Everything comes down to inflammation. So if the inflammation's in your gut, it goes to your brain. And if your body's reacting to mold, mycotoxins, same thing. It's you unfortunately were put in a situation that your immune system could not handle or overhandle. Let's put it that way, overhandle.
Yeah,
instead of not
exactly.
handle.
And that's when the psoriasis came and all that. I have other friends that work there that don't have any symptoms of mold whatsoever. I have other friends that are like, they walk in, their eyes are running, whatever the situation is. But it's interesting because there are definitely people who are not impacted by it.
But check this out, though. Wouldn't that be something that would be important, that if you don't have a healthy gut, and let's say that you do suffer from severe IBS or SIBO, you are now compromised. You will not be able to handle circulating mycotoxins. Otherwise, had your gut been healthy and where it needed to be optimized, you may have never even noticed the compounding aspects of mycotoxins.
Exactly. So it was the perfect storm, but I want everyone to know there is hope. There are answers. There, I do think Pimentel is going to come up with a cure. I really do, or at least some big advances. I'm sorry, levastatin didn't seem to work out, but we do have natural alternatives as well. Thank you very much, Atrantil.
Hey, well, since you're holding that,
what is that?
Yeah.
That looks pretty cool.
It does look really cool. This is one of those incredible stories that some friends of mine have developed from a conversation about a cow. Yes. Would you like to tell us that story, Dr. Ken Brown, please?
The conversation involves a cow and Dr. Pimentel, and I'm going to throw it right back at Dr. Pimentel. I mean, somebody that can take the concept of irritable bowel, which is a trash can, and then figure out that it comes down to bacteria. I love that guy, and I think you're right. I think he's going to figure it out. And because him and I were working together, I was involved in the original studies in Xifaxan. Trying to do it naturally is sort of my goal. And so everyone has their mission. I want to try and figure out how to heal people naturally. And the tannins in Atrantil have been shown to help with bloating, irritable bowel, and SIBO also. And which is why we got page 46 and page 219. Go read the book. It's amazing. Probably the best part of the whole book is but that's a whole separate discussion.
Is there a reason why we didn't bring up water buffalo and we're only talking about kids?
But so Shivan, a couple of the things that I found really cool about your book, which my patients struggle with, and I love that you had a chapter on, is SIBO controlling my weight?
Yeah.
If I have one complaint, it's that patients say I'm eating less and still gaining weight, and you had a whole chapter on it, and I admire you for taking that on because you covered it in a very scientific way. I love that. Can you comment on that?
Oh, thank you so much. There are two parts of that. One is that, and I had never really overthought about this until someone in my Facebook group wrote me an email that said, "Hey, Shivan, you're talking about overweight a lot you're not paying attention to those of us who are underweight. And, ours is, not a vanity issue. We could die. And it was a big wake up call for me. So in this chapter, I do address underweight. For those of you who are listening, I mean, my heart goes out to you 110%. Please don't give up. For those of us who struggle with our weight on the other side, Dr. Pimentel's wife is also a researcher, and she is doing a lot of studying about how methane, methane dominant, right, IMO, actually those little archaea are absorbing your calories at a higher rate than other things. So you could be eating the same thing someone else is eating. You could have a twin, assuming all things were also equal. And if you had IMO and they didn't, your little guys would be absorbing more calories than someone with a different microbiome. And so that can lead to weight gain, which I found fascinating and deeply depressing, by the way, deeply depressing.
Well, it's really interesting because there's lots of fecal microbial transplant studies.
Yeah.
Twins have had that due to ulcerative colitis and things. I actually have a patient that the twin got the FMT from the non-ulcerative colitis, and then the twin started gaining weight, developing acne, developing polycystic ovary disease, things that she didn't have that the other twin did. It did help her colitis. So it's a very complex thing, the whole microbiome and the environment. But you did a really good job of explaining in the book about how complex it is and how so much of this is out of our control. So please don't get frustrated. That's what I really got out of your book. Don't blame it on yourself. A lot of this is out of your control.
Right.
Try to control the environment, the epigenetics, and the doctors that you go see.
Exactly. And that if you don't find the right doctor right away, keep going. I do hear in our Facebook group, which, has over 17,000 people in it, and it's an amazing community. I do hear sometimes despair and just an unwillingness to do the next thing that they actually logically know is the right thing to do next, but they're exhausted. Mm-hmm. And they aren't even acknowledging their exhaustion. They're just like, I've tried everything. I've spent $10,000, which I can totally relate. But Dr. Siebecker has this saying, which is very simple, and it's in the book, I know. And it's, have you tried really everything? Like everything? It's very rare that someone's tried everything you could possibly do. And there are other options. And don't quit before the miracle, right? You hang in there, keep at it. What if we only had like one thing, or we didn't even have Xifaxan or Atrantil to deal with it? We have a variety of choices. The herbal antibiotics have been studied. The pharmaceuticals have been studied. Elemental diet could be miraculous for you. Atrantil is miraculous for so many people. So the fact that you have all of these choices, I think, is huge, 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 huge. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna, but I am just trying to do a little bit of a perspective change and just encourage you to keep going. We call it spinning the plate in the industry of when, like my family in the giftware industry, you spin the plate like, oh, you have the mashed potatoes. Now you got to sell them the peas. Now you got to sell them the carrots. Around. So you just have to keep going.
Well, I think you just described it. It's SIBO and IBS. They're complex problems. And sometimes complex problems require some complex solutions. It didn't generally happen overnight. And addressing all of that is incredibly important.
So one thing, Shivan, that you did hit on your book also that I'm seeing a whole lot of, even if you're a super tough person and you just brush off all of this and say, whatever, so I'm bloated, it is what it is, I got a family, I got to work, I got to do things. I'm seeing that the inflammation caused by this can lead to a domino effect. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, which could be autoimmune disease, but also I'm seeing this constellation of what you tapped on, which is this dysautonomia, POTS, possibly, the whole thing leading. And so I'm seeing this constellation of Ehlers-Danlos people that then they started with SIBO, then suddenly were diagnosed with Ehlers-Danlos, and then they go see a cardiologist that diagnosed them with POTS, and then all of a sudden we're talking about MALS syndrome, medium arcuate ligament syndrome, and it's this constellation where you're like, wait a minute, you were normal 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about this crazy constellation of symptoms. We need to, it's that whole thing of, walk it off. No, you need to rest. You need to figure it out. You need to fix it before this becomes something more like an autoimmune disease.
Right. I have mild Ehlers-Danlos, legitimately diagnosed by a specialist. And, I can do this whole thing with the thumb and, I know people some people can't walk from it. It's really an insidious scenario, but it started to feel like, I've got psoriasis, I've got Ehlers-Danlos, I have the mold, I have old Lyme, I have old EBV. So I can totally relate to that. But there is a way forward to at least feel better, right?
Sure.
At least feel better. And you do have to take really good care of yourself. And the other thing, you're also teaching other people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. And there are two things I wish my parents had done. And my parents were amazing. I wish they had taught me how to save money. And I wish that they had exercised regularly and made that a habit for me. And those are the two things. I mean, it really, obviously, look, if that's my biggest complaint, I'm doing great in terms of my early childhood. But you have to teach other people how to treat you. And you have to take time to do the things that you weren't taught. So maybe that is doing the yoga class or just like freaking 15 minutes a day of a walk or shutting the door or whatever, or meditating or playing your favorite music and dancing in the living room. I really don't care what it is, as long as you really claim it and you use it as a healing tool for yourself, because in that quiet, that's when that super thinking can happen. Now, I'm a big meditator, and it has definitely saved my life. There's no doubt about it. And I talk about some apps and some places on the web where you can learn how to meditate. But even just that act of claiming 15 minutes a day is so powerful. And I believe it starts a velocity of other positive things.
I would say I love that. I absolutely love that. And I get made fun of by my family. I get made fun of by my friends. But the one thing that I'm teaching my children is that do not discount any idea until you, number one, research it. Number two, try it. Mm-hmm. So I will come back. I'll be like, there'll be a podcast and there'll be random packages showing up from Amazon. Heard a podcast. We're going to try this now. So it's become a running joke in my family. But the nonsense sifts down and the gold kind of stays up top, and we sauna, we cold bath, we breathe, we do stuff. I say this not so much for me or my kids. I say this to my colleagues. Don't just pat somebody on the head and say the scope was negative, you're fine, because I've learned a ton I've learned a ton from you.
Yeah.
I've learned a ton from, Dr. Seebecker, Dr. Ruscio, Dr. Pimentel, all these fantastic people that have taken the time to learn things and then put them in a readable format so that we can all learn from it. A traditionally trained gastroenterologist like myself, I run into my colleagues that their initial knee jerk is, there's no science on that. Well, there is. You just haven't taken the time to look at it. So what you say is what I wish my parents would have taught me. What you did is you took everything great that your parents taught you and you took it to the next level, which is the legacy that you're doing. And you're doing an amazing job of that. What I'm trying to do is teach my kids, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I'm having an open mind and just believe and try. And if it doesn't work, no harm, no foul.
Those are great steps in the right direction, for sure. Thanks, you guys, so much for having me. Don't forget to pick up your Atrantil at sibosos.com/shop. We have one of the best prices in the world.
So I'm going to say that again. Go to sibosos.com to link up with Shivan. And then in shop, we should go ahead and say it. It's one of the best deals that you can get on Atrantil, period.
All right. So Shivan has been a huge supporter of us from day one, and we are a huge supporter of her. So if you're going to buy Atrantil, this is where you're supposed to buy it.
and this is, and you know what? While we've been talking, I just thought about it. It's not just how to heal from SIBO. This is really how to improve your quality of life. If you're suffering here, this is, I mean, you said it yourself. Sometimes it comes down to management until something better comes along. But each day we only have so many days. And if I can improve my quality of life, and this is something that is affecting me, this is how I improve my quality of life. And we talk about health span and health span versus lifespan. You want good health for as long as you're alive.
Yeah, that is so
and if
true.
You're worried, sorry to interrupt, Shivan. I just want to say that if you're sitting here and you're like, well, I can't eat anything, really? You can't eat honey macaroons, which are dairy-free, gluten-free, nut-free? Yeah, there's a recipe for that bad boy in here. Yeah. You've got some killer recipes.
They're really good. They're really good. And I created them with Christy Regan, who has written like 2 or 3 SIBO cookbooks, who's a SIBO nutritionist, who's a fantastic human being. And I would eat her food when I would go to Portland, Oregon, and because that's where she's located. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally need your help with this cookbook. And so we've created these together, and she made sure they tasted really good. And then I have the blessing of a woman who's helping me at the house right now, because I'm trying to do these other summits and do a couple of other projects. So she's been helping me with creating some of my food. I just handed her a book. I'm like, here, I need this food. This is it. And I've been retasting it, and I have been thrilled and very relieved. It is delicious. I worked on these a long time ago. I just had that green goddess dressing with a slab of celery. Yum. I mean, it's legitimately really delicious food. I promise. I would not say that if I didn't mean it. I'd be like, the recipes are okay.
All right.
No, they're fantastic.
One last thing I want to talk about your book, which is really awesome. Not only do you have a bunch of recipes to do this, but you really do have a 21-day plan where day by day you go through and you say, this is what you're going to do. And you're going to walk people through just as if you were like a personal trainer. And you say, you're going to have this on this day. You're going to eat this. It's amazing. So it's basically a no-brainer. People are going to read the first part. They're going to go, okay, now I understand it. And then the middle part, you're saying, this is what you're going to do to fix it. And then the back part, this is what you're going to do to keep yourself healthy going on. It's great. It's a great book. It's awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Shivan, for joining us. This is Shivan Sarna, Healing SIBO. And you want people to buy the book at Amazon, correct?
Amazon, wherever booksellers, find booksellers, Barnes & Noble. There are tons of places. But if you do buy it on Amazon, please do leave a review. And be sure to come to sibosos.com to get the best deal on Atrantil.
And remember, if you leave a review, just mention that page 46 is the best page in the book.
Yes.
Do it.
Very big fan. That is episode 50. Gut Check Project fans, thank y'all so much for joining us. Shivan, thank you so much for all of your support, introducing us to who you introduced us to, and I'm certain that we'll do this again.
So, absolutely. So where do they go to get Atrantil from her?
Go to sibosos.com, and of course, we'll always have it in our show notes so that you'll know exactly where to go. And you go to the shop button if you happen to go to the homepage, and you can find it right there.
That's awesome. Shivan, once again, thank you. Much love. You are the voice of SIBO, and I feel like you're just getting warmed up. Awesome.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Thank you guys so much.
Bye, Shivan.
Episode 50. Bye-bye.